July 24, 1943. Hamburg, Germany. 23:58 hours. The air raid sirens begin as a low moan, almost polite at first, a warning rather than a scream. In a fourth-floor apartment on Danehaid Street, Anna Richter freezes with one stocking still half rolled up her calf. The radio, tuned to a light orchestral program, cuts off mid-note. Then comes the second sound. Thunder. Not the distant, rolling kind that wanders across the North Sea. This thunder has rhythm. A deep, mechanical pulse that swells and multiplies, as if the sky itself is filling with engines. Anna steps to the window before she can stop herself. The blackout curtains flutter slightly. Somewhere above the clouds, hundreds of RAF Lancaster bombers are crossing the Elbe, their 4 Merlin engines beating the night into submission. You cannot see them yet, but everyone in Hamburg knows what that sound means now. By 1943, German civilians no longer ask if the bombers are coming. Only how many. The sirens rise into a full wail. Doors slam open along the stairwell. A neighbor shouts, "Los Keller schnell." Children cry. Boots pound downward. Anna grabs her coat, leaves the lights off, and joins the flow toward the cellar. Outside, flak guns on the city's perimeter begin to bark. The first explosions are distant, dull thumps, like a giant knocking on a door far away. But the sound overhead grows louder, a layered roar, rolling wave after wave. Someone whispers the nickname everyone uses now, Die Nächtlichen Donner, the nightly thunder. This is no longer a raid. It is a routine. 600 miles away, earlier that same evening, Wing Commander John Searby had leaned over a map table at RAF Mildenhall and traced a grease-pencil line toward Hamburg. Operation Gomorrah. The briefing room smelled of tobacco and damp wool. He had said the same words he had said many times before. Target indicators over the city center. Pathfinder force first. Main force follows in waves. Maintain altitude. Do not break formation. Above 20,000 feet now, the bombers fly straight and steady, navigation lights off, crews straining to keep station in the darkness. To them, Germany is an abstract grid of rivers and lights. To the people below, the sound alone is enough to hollow out the chest. In Hamburg's basements, families packed together shoulder to shoulder. Some cellars were reinforced after the raids of 1942. Others are nothing more than coal rooms with wooden beams and prayer cards nailed to the walls. Herr Müller, a retired dock worker, sits on an upturned crate clutching his gas mask, even though no one believes in gas attacks anymore. His hands shake anyway. Across from him, a teenage boy counts the seconds between detonations, whispering numbers under his breath. When the rhythm breaks, when explosions begin overlapping, he stops counting entirely. The bombs fall first on the docks, then the rail yards, then deliberately the neighborhoods. The sound changes. High explosive bombs crack like lightning strikes, a sharp concussion that slams the lungs. Incendiaries follow, a metallic clatter like rain made of glass, cascading across rooftops. Somewhere above, a Lancaster releases its load. Thousands of magnesium fire sticks, each one igniting on impact with a blinding white glare. The cellar lights flicker. Dust sifts down. A woman crosses herself. Another presses her hands over her ears, as if that could keep the sound out. By now, German civil defense doctrine says to wait. Stay put. Fire wardens will guide evacuation if necessary. But no one trusts the doctrine anymore. They have heard this thunder too many times. On the streets, air raid wardens run from doorway to doorway, whistles shrill, armbands glowing faintly in the firelight. Water mains rupture. Fire hoses go slack. The heat begins to build, not from one blaze, but from hundreds merging into one. By 10 hours the wind starts. Firestorms were not fully understood by anyone experiencing them. But civilians feel it instantly. Air rushing toward the flames with hurricane force, sucking oxygen out of shelters, ripping doors off hinges. People stagger as if drunk. Those who try to flee above ground are knocked down by the sheer force of the wind. Inside the cellar, Anna smells it before she feels it. Burning pitch, scorched fabric, something chemical and sweet. Smoke seeps through the cracks. Someone pounds on the door, screaming that the stairwell is on fire. Another voice shouts to stay inside. Arguments erupt. The thunder overhead never stops. Lancasters pass again. And again. Each wave louder than the last, as if the sky itself is descending. For German civilians in 1943, night has become a battlefield without uniforms. There is no front line, no direction to run. Only the sound, engines, flak, explosions, a constant roar that erases the difference between minutes and hours. At some point the cellar door bows inward. The lights go out completely. In the darkness, Anna realizes something terrifyingly simple. The bombers are not leaving yet. The darkness in the cellar is complete now, broken only by the orange flicker leaking through the cracks in the door. The thunder above has lost its rhythm. It is no longer waves. It is one continuous sound, as if the sky has torn open and refuses to close. Someone strikes a match. A hand slaps it out instantly. No light, a man hisses. It uses oxygen. Anna can feel the air changing. Each breath is warmer, thinner. The smoke creeps in low, hugging the floor, curling around ankles like something alive. Children cough. An elderly woman slumps against the wall, her head lolling forward. Above them, Hamburg is no longer a city. It is a furnace. At 1:30 hours, RAF Pathfinders drop fresh target indicators, green and red flares drifting slowly on parachutes. To bomber crews, the markers mean accuracy. To the people below, they are a death sentence hanging in the sky. Entire blocks ignite at once. Roofs collapse inward. Asphalt streets soften and bubble. Tram cables snap, whipping sparks into the smoke-filled air. The wind howls louder now, a constant scream as oxygen is sucked toward the center of the firestorm. Civil Defense Headquarters has stopped answering phones. Fire brigades try to advance, hoses dragging uselessly behind them. Water pressure is gone across most of the city. Fire engines stall in streets clogged with rubble and panicked civilians. Orders conflict. Signals fail. Men trained to fight localized blazes stare helplessly at a wall of flame hundreds of meters wide. One fire officer is heard shouting, "Das ist unmöglich," this is impossible. And it is. Inside the cellar, the argument reaches a breaking point. "We have to go now," someone shouts. "If we open the door, the fire will come in," another screams back. The door rattles as something heavy collapses outside. A blast wave slams through the building, lifting people off their feet. Plaster rains down. The air pressure crushes Anna's ears until all she hears is a high, shrill ringing layered over the distant engines. Then silence. For half a second there is no thunder, no explosions, only the wind. That is when they realize the bombs have moved on, and the fire has not. The door is forced open. Heat punches into the cellar like a physical blow. The stairwell beyond is a chimney of flame. Someone tries to climb anyway. He disappears upward in a rush of sparks and smoke. He does not come back down. Panic takes over. People scream. Mothers clutch children to their chests. Herr Mueller drops his gas mask and does not bother to pick it up. The shelter that was supposed to protect them has become a trap. Anna presses herself against the far wall, trying to breathe shallowly, counting heartbeats like seconds. Around her, voices weaken, turning hoarse, then quiet. Smoke thickens until the world narrows to a burning ache behind the eyes. This is how civil defense collapses, not in reports or orders, but in basements where no one can breathe anymore. Across the city, the same scene repeats itself hundreds of times. Some shelters survive. Others become mass graves. Those who make it outside stumble into a nightmare landscape. Entire neighborhoods are flattened, glowing red from beneath the rubble. People wander aimlessly, clothes singed, faces blackened, eyes wide and empty. The wind drives them toward the fire, whether they want it or not. A mother is seen running against the wind, dragging a child whose shoes have burned away. A man beats at his own coat, unaware it is on fire. Somewhere, a piano plays a single broken note as a building collapses around it. Above it all, the bombers turn for home. From the air, Hamburg looks like a single pulsing ember, a city-sized coal glowing through the smoke. Some RAF crews are silent on the intercom now. Others speak in clipped, professional tones, logging times and headings. One rear gunner watches the flames fade beneath the clouds and mutters, "Christ." By dawn, the thunder is gone. In its place comes a new sound, the crackle of dying fires, the groan of collapsing walls, the soft, stunned murmurs of survivors emerging from hiding. Smoke blots out the sun. Ash drifts down like gray snow, settling on corpses, on twisted bicycles, on the remains of streets that no longer exist. Anna emerges hours later from a breached cellar 2 blocks away. She does not remember how she got there. Her hair is singed. Her coat is gone. Hamburg's skyline, once spires and cranes, is now jagged stumps against a brown sky. She listens. For the first time in years, there is no thunder overhead. But everyone knows what that silence means. The bombers will come again tonight. July 25, 1943. Hamburg. 21:12 hours. The sirens begin again, before the fires from the previous night have finished burning. Anna flinches at the first rising wail, her body reacting before her mind can catch up. Around her, survivors freeze in place, in doorways, in streets littered with brick and glass, in makeshift shelters carved out of ruins. No one asks whether this is a drill. Drills ended months ago. Someone mutters, "Already." Another answers, "They never stopped." The smoke still hangs low over the city, a brown-gray ceiling that smells of ash and death. Fire crews have been digging all day, pulling bodies from cellars that never opened again. Lists are being written on scraps of paper. Names spoken softly, then crossed out. Now the sound returns. At first it is distant, almost uncertain. Then it grows, a familiar vibration in the chest, a pressure behind the eyes. The nightly thunder has found Hamburg again. By mid-1943, this is life across Germany's cities. Cologne, Essen, Dusseldorf, Berlin. Night after night, RAF Bomber Command sends hundreds of aircraft eastward. Lancasters, Halifaxes, Stirlings, black shapes against the stars. They come in streams so long that German radar operators stop counting individual contacts. Fighter controllers shout into phones that no longer connect. Orders are issued and contradicted within minutes. The Kammhuber line, once a carefully organized night fighter defense, is overwhelmed. Too many bombers. Too few interceptors. Fuel shortages. Exhausted crews. From the ground, civilians do not see strategy. They hear engines. In Hamburg, people move automatically now. When the sirens rise, doors open. Feet turn toward shelters without conscious thought. Children stop crying sooner each night. Fear has become efficient. Anna joins a group heading toward a public bunker, one of the massive concrete towers built earlier in the war. Its walls are meters thick, its doors steel. Everyone knows these are safer. The line to enter stretches down the street. Above them, the first flak bursts bloom, black flowers tearing at the clouds. The sound is sharper than the bombs, a cracking whip that echoes between buildings. Searchlights stab upward, pale fingers probing the smoke. Someone near the front of the line laughs suddenly, a short, hysterical sound. "They'll miss tonight," he says. They must. No one answers him. Inside the bunker, the air is already stale. Hundreds of people cram onto wooden benches, against walls, on stair landings. The doors seal shut with a heavy clang that reverberates through the concrete. The thunder returns in full. Bombs strike closer now. The bunker trembles with each detonation, dust drifting from seams in the ceiling. Somewhere above, an entire block collapses. The sound is not an explosion but a deep, rolling roar, stone grinding against stone. A child asks, "Is it over?" A woman answers without thinking, "Almost." She is lying. Everyone knows it. Hours pass measured only by impacts. Water drips steadily from a cracked pipe. A man vomits quietly into a helmet. Another prays under his breath, the words worn thin by repetition. This is not terror anymore. Terror requires surprise. This is endurance. Across Germany, civil defense reports begin using new language. Population shows signs of fatigue. Morale affected by repeated nocturnal disturbance. Shelter discipline deteriorating. Translated into human terms, people are breaking. Some refuse to go underground anymore, choosing to risk the streets rather than suffocate in cellars. Others sleep in clothes, boots beside the bed, bags packed permanently. Children wet themselves at the sound of aircraft engines, even in daylight. Doctors note a rise in heart failures during raids. Psychiatrists quietly document cases of what they call Luftkriegnervosität, air war nervousness. No cure. No rest. And always the sound. The bombers are heard long before they arrive, and long after they leave. Even trains rumbling at night make people flinch. Thunderstorms cause panic. Silence itself becomes suspicious. Just before midnight, the bunker shakes violently. A bomb lands close enough to snuff out the lights entirely. Darkness swallows the room. Screams erupt, then fade as people realize the structure still stands. Somewhere above, a Lancaster takes flak damage, its wing burning. The crew fights the fire, dumping fuel, struggling to hold altitude. The bomber staggers, then disappears into the smoke. Those on the ground never know whether it crashes nearby or limps back toward England. They only hear the next wave coming in. When the all-clear finally sounds near dawn, it feels unreal, a thin, almost apologetic note after hours of punishment. The bunker doors open slowly. People blink at the light, faces gray with exhaustion. Hamburg is changed again. More buildings gone. More streets erased. The fires burn less fiercely now, not because the attacks have weakened, but because there is less left to burn. Anna steps outside and looks at the sky. It is pale, streaked with smoke, quiet except for distant sirens and falling debris. For a moment, she feels nothing at all. Then far away, she hears an engine. Just a single aircraft heading east. Her heart starts racing anyway. August 3rd, 1943. Berlin. 22:41 hours. The capital hears the bombers before it sees them. In a narrow apartment near Wedding, Oberpostsekretär Karl Weiss sits at his kitchen table with a cup of weak Urset's coffee, staring at a wall map dotted with red pins. Each pin marks a city bombed in the last month. Hamburg is covered so thickly that the paper beneath is no longer visible. The sirens have not sounded yet, but Karl knows the rhythm now. The faint vibration in the floorboards. The way the glasses in the cupboard begin to hum. Somewhere beyond the clouds, engines are assembling into formation. He reaches for his coat before the alarm begins. When it comes, it is almost a relief. By the summer of 1943, Berliners have learned the truth the hard way. The war has come home, and it is not leaving. RAF Bomber Command has expanded its campaign. American daylight raids pound by day. British bombers return by night. The sky offers no pause. Civil defense authorities issue instructions with increasing urgency. Posters appear in stairwells. Ruhe bewahren. Keep calm. Fire wardens knock on doors, reminding people to clear attics, to prepare sand buckets, to seal windows. Few listen anymore. People move when the sirens sound, because experience has taught them that delay kills. Karl joins the stream heading for the nearest shelter, a converted U-Bahn station beneath the street. The entrance stairs are already packed. Elderly men clutch briefcases filled with documents. Women carry children wrapped in blankets despite the heat. Above them, searchlights snap on, crossing in frantic patterns. Flak guns open fire, the sharp crack echoing between apartment blocks. The sky flashes intermittently, like heat lightning trapped in clouds. Then the thunder arrives. Berlin's first major raid of the summer hits the northern districts hardest. Explosions roll through the streets in long, overlapping waves. The underground station shudders. Dust shakes loose from the tiled ceiling. Someone screams when the lights flicker, then steadies when they hold. A warden shouts, "Stay back from the stairs." Another yells, "No smoking." The rules sound absurd now, but they are enforced anyway. Order is all that remains. Carl presses his back against the wall, feeling the vibrations pass through the concrete. He remembers the early days of the war, when raids were rare, when people gathered on rooftops to watch searchlights and tracers like a spectacle. That feels like another lifetime. A young woman near him begins to sob, quietly at first, then harder, shoulders shaking. No one looks at her. Comfort requires energy, and everyone is conserving what little they have left. Above ground, Berlin's defenses fight a losing battle. Night fighters scramble from nearby airfields, but the bomber stream is too dense. Radar screens are crowded with blips. Controllers shout headings and altitudes, voices hoarse with repetition. Some fighters score kills. Most never find a target. For civilians, the result is the same. Incendiaries rain down, clattering across rooftops. Fires break out faster than crews can respond. Water pressure drops in entire districts. Fire engines retreat as streets become impassable. Orders come through to abandon certain areas entirely. The word spreads underground, whispered from mouth to mouth. They've given up on the north. It feels like betrayal. In the shelter, air grows thick and sour. The station was never designed for this many people. Condensation drips from the ceiling. A man faints and is dragged to the side. Children cry from thirst. Hours stretch endlessly. The thunder does not fade. This is the breaking point, not a single night, but the accumulation of all of them. Weeks without proper sleep. Days spent clearing rubble, then nights spent waiting for the next wave. The mind begins to fracture under the strain. Carl notices his hands shaking uncontrollably. He clenches them into fists, then forces them open. Around him, others show the same signs. Blank stares, repetitive motions, lips moving silently. Somewhere in the darkness, a voice snaps. "I can't do this anymore," a man shouts. Every night, every damned night. Two wardens move quickly, gripping his arms, pulling him aside before panic spreads. His words hang in the air anyway, heavy and undeniable. No one contradicts him. When the all-clear finally sounds near dawn, it is met with silence. No cheers. No relief. Just a slow, exhausted movement toward the exits. Berlin emerges into a city altered again. Smoke hangs low over the streets. Entire blocks are reduced to skeletal walls. Trams lie derailed, tangled with fallen wires. Fire crews continue working, faces blackened, eyes red. Civilians step carefully around craters, around bodies covered hastily with blankets. Carl walks home through debris that was not there yesterday. His building still stands for now. He sits on the edge of his bed without removing his coat. He does not sleep. Instead, he listens. In the distance, engines drone faintly. Not bombers this time, perhaps transports, perhaps fighters returning to base. It does not matter. His body reacts all the same, heart pounding, breath shallow. This is the true damage of the nightly thunder. Not just the cities burned or the buildings lost, but the way the sound itself has rewired fear into the population, night after night, until even silence feels temporary. And everyone knows the calendar. Autumn is coming. The bombers will not stop for winter. October 18, 1943. Essen, Ruhr Valley. 23:06 hours. The factories are silent now, but the sky is not. In a cramped workers' flat near the Krupp Steelworks, 14-year-old Heinz Becker lies fully dressed on his bed, boots still on, coat folded beneath his head like a pillow. He has learned not to undress at night. Too many times, the sirens have caught him half asleep, fumbling with buttons while the thunder rolled closer. Tonight he is already awake. The first engines reach him not through sound, but through vibration, a faint trembling in the window glass, a shiver in the metal bed frame. He counts them without meaning to. 1, 2, many more than last night. His mother steps into the room, hair wrapped in a scarf, carrying a bundle of documents tied with string. She does not speak. She does not need to. Outside, the sirens rise. By late 1943, the nightly raids have become systematic pressure, not just against industry, but against endurance itself. Essen, heart of the Ruhr, has been bombed so often that street names mean less than landmarks. The burned church, the collapsed viaduct, the block that caught fire 3 nights ago. Civil defense manuals still exist. So do fire wardens. But the system no longer pretends it can protect everyone. Shelters are overcrowded. Bunkers fill early. Cellars are avoided when possible. Everyone has heard the stories. People begin sleeping closer to shelters, or not sleeping at all. Some families rotate rest, one person staying awake to listen for engines. The thunder never surprises anymore. Heinz and his mother join the flow toward the shelter, beneath a school building. The street is dim, lit only by hooded lamps and distant fires still smoldering from previous raids. Flak guns already fire to the west, their reports sharp and fast. Above, searchlights sweep the clouds, intersecting again and again without catching anything solid. The bombers fly higher now, beyond easy reach. They know the defenses. They have learned. The shelter door slams shut behind them. Inside, the air smells of sweat, damp concrete, and fear that has gone stale. People sit in silence, conserving energy. No one bothers with reassurance. Then the bombs begin. Essen shakes in pulses. Heavy bombs slam into industrial zones first, the steelworks, the rail yards, the power stations. The shelter rocks with each impact, dust drifting down like flour. A child asks if the factory is burning. An older man answers, "It always burns." Incendiaries follow. Their sound is unmistakable now, a clattering rain that echoes off rooftops. Somewhere above, magnesium flares ignite, turning night briefly into false daylight. Shadows flicker across the shelter walls. Heinz presses his hands against his ears, not to block the noise, that is impossible, but to feel pressure, something solid, something he can control. His heart pounds in time with the explosions. This is the sound of adulthood arriving early. Across Germany, the same night unfolds in dozens of cities. Dortmund, Kassel, Leipzig. Bomber streams stretch for hours. Crews log targets and headings with mechanical precision. On the ground, civilians mark time by impact and silence, by the brief lulls between waves. Reports from local authorities grow increasingly blunt. Population shows signs of resignation. Shelter discipline passive rather than compliant. Signs of fatalism observed. Fatalism sounds academic. In reality, it means people stop running. Some remain seated when the sirens sound, staring at walls until neighbors drag them along. Others walk slowly toward shelters, unconcerned with urgency. A few refuse to move at all. "If it hits," becomes a common phrase. The raid on Essen lasts nearly 2 hours. Near the end, a bomb strikes close enough to the school that the shelter lights flicker violently. Screams break out, then settle when the structure holds. Heinz feels something inside him loosen, not relief but detachment. His body still reacts, but his mind drifts elsewhere, numb. This is how the nightly thunder wins. Not with a single catastrophic blow, but with repetition, with exhaustion, with the steady erosion of hope. When the all-clear finally sounds, it is barely acknowledged. People stand slowly, joints stiff, faces blank. The shelter door opens onto a street glowing faintly from multiple fires. The steelworks burn again. Hines and his mother walk home through debris without speaking. Somewhere nearby, a building collapses with a tired groan, as if giving up. Back in the flat, Hines sits on his bed and stares at the wall. He does not remove his boots. He listens. Even after the engines fade, even after the flak falls silent, the thunder remains, echoing in memory, in muscle, in nerves that no longer know how to relax. For German civilians in 1943, night has lost its meaning. There is no darkness that promises rest, no silence that promises safety. Only the certainty that when the sun sets again, the sky will remember their cities. December 16, 1943. Kassel, Hesse. 18:54 hours. Darkness comes early now. Snow clings to the broken roofs and shattered streets, muting footsteps, softening edges, but it does nothing to soften the sound. In a half-ruined tenement near the Fulda River, schoolteacher Elizabeth Kruger sits beside a small iron stove that has long since gone cold. Coal is rationed. Wood is scavenged. Heat is a memory. She does not light a lamp. There is no point. Instead, she listens. Outside, the city is unusually quiet, the kind of quiet that makes the skin prickle. No trams. No distant voices. Just the wind moving through bombed-out shells of buildings. Elizabeth checks her watch again. The sirens should have sounded by now. By winter, German civilians have learned to read the night the way sailors read the sea. The absence of sound can be as alarming as its presence. When bombers are coming, there is often a strange stillness beforehand, as if the city itself is holding its breath. At 18:57, the windows begin to tremble. 3 seconds later, the sirens howl. Elizabeth rises, pulling on her coat, her movements practiced and economical. She takes her documents, a loaf of black bread and a scarf. She does not take books anymore. She used to during the early raids. There is no concentration left for reading. In the stairwell, neighbors descend without speaking. No one runs. Running wastes energy. Kassel has been hit before, badly, but tonight feels different. The engines arrive in force, their sound magnified by low cloud cover. The thunder presses down on the city, echoing back from the clouds, making it impossible to judge distance or direction. Bombs could be falling anywhere. Everywhere. In the shelter, people sit wrapped in coats and blankets, breath fogging in the cold air. Someone has brought a thermos of weak chicory coffee and passes it carefully, as if it were something sacred. Above them, flak erupts in rapid bursts, the concussions rattling teeth. The shelter shudders, then steadies. Dust drifts down. No one comments. This has become normal. The raid intensifies quickly. Bombs land closer now, the impacts sharper, more violent. Somewhere above, a row of houses collapses, the sound like a slow avalanche. The shelter lights flicker but stay on. A child begins to cry, then stops when his mother presses his face into her coat. Elizabeth counts silently, not bombs but breaths. In. Out. In. Out. The engines arrive in force, their sound magnified by low cloud cover. The thunder presses down on the city, echoing back from the clouds, making it impossible to judge distance or direction. Bombs could be falling anywhere. Everywhere. In the shelter, people sit wrapped in coats and blankets, breath fogging in the cold air. Someone has brought a thermos of weak chicory coffee and passes it carefully, as if it were something sacred. Above them, flak erupts in rapid bursts, the concussions rattling teeth. The shelter shudders, then steadies. Dust drifts down. No one comments. This has become normal. The raid intensifies quickly. Bombs land closer now, the impacts sharper, more violent. Somewhere above, a row of houses collapses, the sound like a slow avalanche. The shelter lights flicker but stay on. A child begins to cry, then stops when his mother presses his face into her coat. Elizabeth counts silently, not bombs but breaths. In, out, in, out. She realizes she no longer feels fear in the way she once did. Fear used to come in waves, rising and falling. Now it is constant, a background condition like the cold. Something to be endured, not escaped. This is what the nightly thunder has done. Across Germany, winter does not bring relief. Snow makes fires harder to fight and rubble harder to clear. Ice turns bomb craters into traps. Rescue work slows. Survival becomes harder. And still the bombers come. Civil defense officials issue statements urging perseverance. Newspapers speak of resilience and sacrifice. Radio broadcasts praise calm behavior during raids. But in shelters and cellars, a different reality unfolds. People speak less. Arguments break out more easily. Small irritations flare into shouting matches. Some sit motionless for hours after the all-clear, unable or unwilling to move. Doctors report spikes in nervous collapse. Factories note increased absenteeism after heavy raids. Teachers find classrooms half empty, children kept home not because of injury, but because parents cannot bear to send them out again. The war in the air is reshaping life on the ground. Near midnight, Castle's shelter takes a direct hit nearby. The shockwave slams through the structure, throwing people against walls. The lights go out. Screams erupt, sharp, panicked, uncontrollable. For a moment, it feels like Hamburg all over again. Then emergency lamps flicker on. The shelter holds. People stare at one another in the dim glow, breathing hard. Some laugh weakly. Others cry openly now, the restraint of the past months finally cracking. Elizabeth feels her hands shaking violently. She presses them between her knees, trying to stop the tremor. She tells herself she is alive. She tells herself the night will end. Above them, the thunder rolls on. When the all-clear finally sounds, it is nearly dawn. Snow falls gently onto a city that barely resembles itself. Smoke rises in thin columns from dozens of points. The air smells of frost, ash, and burned wood. Elizabeth steps outside and looks down a street that once led to her school. The building is gone. In its place is a jagged field of rubble, half buried in snow. She feels no shock, only a dull, aching certainty. The sound will return. Tonight, tomorrow, next week. For German civilians in 1943, the war is no longer measured in victories or defeats, but in nights survived. In how long one can live beneath the thunder before something inside finally gives way. Elizabeth turns her collar up against the cold and walks home carefully, listening to the crunch of snow beneath her boots. Even now in daylight, she listens for engines. March 24, 1944. Frankfurt am Main. 17 hours. The sirens sound late tonight. Too late. In a narrow cellar beneath a banking office near the main river, engineer Wilhelm Hartmann snaps awake from a shallow, broken sleep. For a half-second there is confusion. Then the sound reaches him, unmistakable and already overwhelming. Engines. Not distant. Not assembling. Already overhead. The thunder crashes down almost at once, compressed by low clouds, amplified by the river valley. The cellar walls vibrate as if struck by a giant hand. Wilhelm swings his legs off the cot, boots already on, heart racing not with panic but with anger. "They didn't even give us time," someone shouts. No one answers. By early 1944, the rhythm has changed again. The raids come earlier. Sometimes before midnight. Sometimes before full darkness. The illusion of warning, of preparation, is gone. Sirens follow bombers instead of preceding them. Shelters fill under fire. For civilians, this is the final erosion of control. Frankfurt has endured dozens of raids already, but tonight the bombing is relentless. Explosions walk across districts methodically. The thunder is layered now, bombs, flak, collapsing buildings, all blending into a single continuous roar. Wilhelm braces himself against the cellar wall as dust rains down. He thinks of nothing. Thinking hurts. Across Germany, the effect is the same. People no longer mark dates by calendars, but by destruction. Before the raid. After the raid. Children learn streets that no longer exist. Adults give directions using ruins as reference points. The sound of bombers has become the country's nightly language. Some recognize engine types by ear. Others can tell the difference between flak bursts and bomb impacts without opening their eyes. Many wake seconds before the sirens, bodies trained by months of repetition. This is not resilience. This is conditioning. In Frankfurt, fires merge quickly. The glow outside the cellar vents brightens from orange to white. The air grows hot, then choking. People press handkerchiefs to their mouths. A man begins to pray loudly, his voice breaking. Wilhelm feels a strange detachment settle over him. He is aware dimly that this might be the night the shelter fails. The thought does not frighten him as it once would have. It simply feels possible. That realization scares him more than the bombs. When the raid finally lifts, the silence is jarring. The thunder fades eastward, engines dissolving into a distant hum, then nothing at all. For several seconds, no one moves. They have learned that silence can be temporary. Then the all-clear sounds, thin, almost embarrassed. People emerge slowly. Frankfurt is burning again. Streets are blocked by rubble. Fire crews work where they can. Others stand uselessly, watching flames consume buildings they once walked past without noticing. Wilhelm steps into the street and looks up. The sky is empty. No engines. No flak. Just smoke drifting across stars. For the first time in months, he realizes something has changed, not in the war but in himself. The absence of sound feels unfamiliar, uncomfortable. The thunder has carved a space inside him, and silence no longer fits. By the end of 1944, Germany's cities will be shadows of themselves. Millions will be homeless. Entire urban centers reduced to ash and memory. But for civilians who lived through 1943, the year of constant night bombing leaves a deeper scar. They remember the sound, the way it rolled in before sleep, the way it crushed conversation, prayer, thought, the way it followed them into daylight, into dreams, into silence. Even years later, many will flinch at thunderstorms, at low-flying aircraft, at the distant rumble of engines on a quiet night. Because once, for an entire year, the sky did not rest. It spoke only in thunder.